All right. We are back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It's Friday. You know what that means. Say it with me. It is OCTANE Friday. And that's when we kick it up a notch as you roll into the weekend. What are we talking about today? Yesterday, a little Bad Company. Hope you enjoyed that. What are we doing today? Well, this is actually something related to the news, even though we've covered this before. Some big news coming out of the Guns N' Roses camp as far as releases are concerned. So that's what we're talking about today. We also passed an anniversary last week. So let's get to it. We are going back to September 17th, 1991, when they dropped Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Who remembers the panic in the streets when this came out? This was a big deal. I know people today probably don't understand why and how things can be such a big deal, but this was one of the most anticipated releases in the history of rock and roll. It really was. It's a true story. They were trying to predict that perhaps it would sell more than any other records, since there were two of them. And it sold a lot, but it didn't sell that many. But this was a very big deal, and it was an odd release. It wasn't a double album. It was two separate albums. Now, you remember, when you sold a double album as a unit, it counted twice towards sales. So you only had to sell 500,000 of a double album to make it go platinum for $1 million. Isn't that interesting? In order for these to go platinum, you had to sell 1 million each. So there you go. But anyway, they released them separately. On the same day, you had to wait for that UPS truck to pull up at your record store and grab them while you can, because Tuesday was release day. And they think they sold about 500,000 copies combined in about 2 hours across the country. We do know that the first week, Use Your Illusion 1 sold 685,000 copies, and Use Your Illusion 2 sold 770,000. And that's fair. Use Your Illusion 2 was my favorite. This despite Walmart and Kmart not carrying it due to the language content. But, again, this was a big deal. We'll get back to that in a second. But what's the news that we're talking about here? We're talking about a box set, a super deluxe. There's a regular box set, a super deluxe box set that Guns N' Roses put out coming up sometime soon. Mammoth box set. There's a 7 CD and Blu-ray box set, and then there's a 12 record and Blu-ray box set. The super deluxe of the LP is $500. The 7 CD is $260. This thing has 92 tracks. Let's start with that. We'll get back. 92 songs on here. You've got live concerts in here from Las Vegas and New York. You've got a Blu-ray of the whole New York concert. You've got a new recording of November Rain with a 50-piece orchestra. You've got a hardcover 100-page book. You've got photos, lithographs, posters. You name it, you got it. Oddly, if you need to buy like a combination of box sets in order to get all the material. Oddly, you have to buy a combination of these sets to get like all of the songs, because there's like some other live tracks on the smaller sets that aren't on the box set. Makes no sense. Critics are a little concerned, not concerned isn't the right word. Their critics are being critical of the fact that the transfer of the Blu-ray was done in 4K, but then transferred to regular DVD quality. I don't know why they do that. Why they did that. They should have kept it in 4K, frankly, for the amount of money you're churning out. But this is a big deal for fans. I myself will not be picking it up, but 92 tracks from Guns N' Roses. All right, so there's super fans out there, and we'll see what happens with that. But back to the record, some really good tracks on here. We've already established that my favorite song is off of 2, and that's Estranged. But also, Yesterday is awesome. I mean, there's so many good ones on there. And we're not going to go through all of that because we're trying to keep this a little bit on the short side. So, this is like November Rain territory I'm getting in right now. But your song of the day, it's OCTANE Friday. Has to be You Could Be Mine. Released in June of 91, the Terminator 2 soundtrack. Big deal. They say that Arnold Schwarzenegger had the band over to negotiate the deal. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I read. And so, they went over to Arnold's for dinner. and I'm sure he was smoking a cigar. The B-side of that was Civil War. That was a good one. Couldn't have put the whole thing on there, though, because it was on a single. Went to number 29. You Could Be Mine, great song. It's just overplayed for me for a long time. But I revisited it for today's episode. And this one kicks butt. It's a good one. And it was a good time for me to revisit it because I haven't heard it in a long time. So that's a good one. You Could Be Mine. Guns N' Roses, our song of the day today on Octane Friday. Crank it up today, whatever you're doing. I hope it involves music. Octane Friday, Guns N' Roses, match made in heaven. Have a good one. As usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.